Hi, I'm Ian Kendall, and today I'd like to tell you about my new old book. Kind of weird. Back in 2012, I published Basic Training the Book. This was a collection of my MUM, Basic Training columns, for 3 years, and it was published in softback, and all the pictures were in grayscale and black and white. I wasn't happy about that, but that was the financial reality of those days. Luckily, a lot of people liked the book. Now I'm happy to say the book is available in hardback, and it is also in full color. So I'm really happy that the book is finally as I wanted it to be. So Basic Training was a column in MUM when Mike Close took over the editorship, ostensibly for beginners. All the lessons come from a beginner's perspective, but taught in a lot of detail. If you're familiar with my work, you'll know that I like detail in teaching, and this book was no exception. Easiest thing to do is just run through what's in it for you. We started off with a lesson on the ghost count, or the Elmsley count, you might know it as, 4,500 words on how to do that. I believe the best breakdown of that particular sleight. There's a lesson on the double lift, French drop. There was a chapter on presentation, which is kind of fun. Different ways to present your work. We went on to card controls, different ways to simple ways to control a playing card. We did a chapter called Let's Do the Twist. That was gathering a few things we've learned in other weeks, or other months rather, other columns, and doing a Twist of the Aces routine that I've been doing for many, many years. We talked about the false transfer with a coin or an object, ways to look at that to make it really deceptive. We talked about forces, a couple of cards forces you can do, excuse me, to have fun with that. The Hammond count, be prepared. Be prepared was a lesson about, well, be prepared really. Ways to be aware of what can happen in your routine and the best way to deal with it when it happens. And the best way is to practice. Ambidextrous magic. That was learning to do moves with both hands. So if you're right-handed, learning to do sleights left-handed. For me, I'm left-handed, doing sleights right-handed, and things you can do with that. We looked at some false shuffles. We looked at thumb tips, Hindu shuffle. There's a big lesson on the chop cup, a couple of chop cup routines there. One from, well, mainly Paul Wilson's and my sections around that. Talked about shell coins. We talked about on the venue and the birth of the show. That was kind of fun one. That was a couple of months where I talked about different venues you can work at. And it turned into a discussion of how I developed 20-odd Edinburgh Fringe shows, how I went about developing shows. A lot of that stuff is sort of crossover to the Taking the Step course and book, stuff in there. And the End of Brain Dump, have you seen that? We talked about ambitious card, handlings for that venerable old trick. We talked to multiple selections. I set myself a challenge here to teach a multiple selection routine where 5 cards are controlled and produced one at a time with no palming. So that's kind of fun. We talked about classic palming a coin, which is not as simple as you might think, but taught nicely. The 3-ball trick. I was obsessed with this. I got the Stars of Magic back in the 90s, early 90s, and the first lesson was the Scani 3-ball routine. I've been obsessed with 3-ball routines ever since. Talking about unequal ropes, sort of the professor's nightmare, but not as simple as you think. Sort of, I look into ways to set up and convince us for that. One-way deck, things you can do with the one-way deck, and then Spellbound, the classic copper silver changing routine. We looked at some changes, card changes. We looked at stacked decks. Wow. Knots, my knot routine for which I used to do in restaurants back in the 90s, which I think Mark Elsden put in one of his Hidden Treasures books, which I thought was quite nice. Juggling. I actually teach you how to juggle. We talk about the classic force. We talk about sleeving, cards to pocket. This is later on when I started doing slightly more intermediate stuff. So we've got some palming going on there, but it's still fun. Talk about the muscle pass. And this is the move that I was quite well known for in the mid-90s. I think I was one of the few people, certainly one of the first people in the UK to do it. But I give you the correct way to learn the muscle pass. I go into the one coin routine. Now, this was a great lesson. This actually became a video lesson of mine called One Coin. I explain how to create your own one coin routine, which I believe is the ultimate piece of magic. Talk about adaptability in the next lesson. Adaptability was taking a routine and adapting it for different scenarios. So I've got a couple of my routines there, which is sort of an impromptu brainwave thing. One for a table and one for walk around. Then we've got a couple of lessons that were in ebooks that I wrote. One on the classic pass, so it's got my handling for the classic pass, how to break that down and teach it. And one for the top change. And that is the contents of basic training. Scattered up amongst the lessons, there are various routines and effects taught. Mark D'Souza recently reviewed this and said it's the best $65 you can spend, which I thought was a very nice thing to say. Possibly an exaggeration, but I'm not going to take it away. And that is Basic Training, the book Deluxe Edition. I'm so happy this is finally available in hardback and colour the way I think the book should have been made. It's available from Lulu. I'll put a link in the description. But in the meantime, thank you very much for watching this. And if you would like to learn some sleight of hand, then Basic Training, the book. Thank you.